Welcome to another episode of Transform Perspective with Kyra Weathersby. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If you're new to Transform Perspective on YouTube or Spotify or even TikTok, thank you so much for joining us and we welcome you in. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, share, like, all the support. If you feel, I definitely will receive it. And feel free to leave a comment after this episode. It's a safe space to share whatever you want about this episode or just anything really, as long as it's respectful. Yeah. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm just saying, give it my thanks, This episode is going to be a little bit different than how I typically do it, where I kind of go into a topic and I'm talking about like just my perspective of it and something that I learned as I go about my day to day. We're always constantly growing, evolving, and transforming. And this channel is all about sharing those experiences and my perspectives of it. Transform perspective. So yeah, I typically do not share things that I write. But the other day I had a moment. It was a rough moment, and I just started writing and trying to just kind of put things on paper. For some reason, that helps me a lot, and that's exactly why I make a lot of YouTube videos about journaling, about tips with writing, about tips with just like lifestyle and different habits and things that I kind of, incorporate in my life, to transform and to grow and to kind of help that, assist that in my journey, and heal as well. So I was writing as I like to do, and a lot of different things came up, and I just kind of wanted to share a part of that. I started to write and I got a lot of clarity about some things that I was aware of, but then it just came up again and I reminded myself of it, and it helped. It did help to put it down on paper. So if you're having a hard time or a good time, whatever time you're having, anytime, you can always write it down and put it on paper. Yes, it's a very kind of old school way of going about things, but that's just always been helpful for me. That's why I always like to write. The computer is great. Phones are great, but it's a little bit different from typing it up on your computer or putting it in your notes app, when it comes to writing. It's just a different feel. And I feel like I can process things a lot better when I write it down. I can kind of slow things down because my mind can be going 100 miles per hour internally. But then when I sit down with a pen and paper or pencil and paper and just write, sometimes I feel like I can't get it all out fast enough, but sometimes it actually kind of slows it down. It's, allows me to process it as I put it on paper. Even if I can't get everything out, I'm getting something out. And sometimes I have some revelations and some realizations about things in my internal world and in my life as I'm writing it down. And it's the coolest thing ever. Sometimes it doesn't feel cool, especially when you're like, maybe doing some shadow work and getting deep and, into those dark corners and crevices, the things that we don't want to look at. That doesn't always feel fun, but you can learn a lot about yourself through writing and through journaling. So I'm definitely working on some things on my end as far as journaling, and I encourage you to write it down. I just want to say that before I get into what I wrote. I guess I didn't really view it as poetry, but it seems a little poetic. I don't know if I'm a poet or whatever. You can give a few snaps at the end if you like, but let me know what you think in the comments. Feel free to share, subscribe, follow, like I said, Transform Perspective is on TikTok, Spotify, and YouTube. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. So here we go. So basically I was writing. I'm not going to read all of it because I typically don't even read my personal things and things that I write down, but this may be a new way of sharing, is reading what I wrote. I feel like it helps me a lot better than just speaking sometimes. Sometimes you can't find the words, and that's why I like to write. So yeah, because sometimes you can't find the words, and sometimes you find them when you write them down. And you're able to that's another thing. Before I get into it, you're able to write something down and erase it if you want and write something different or kind of go back and make changes and stuff when you're writing. But when you're talking, you're not really able to do that. Yes, of course, if you're recording something, you can edit it out. But when you're talking to someone or talking to people, what you say out your mouth is what you say out your mouth. But if you write it, you're able to like process it a lot better, and you won't necessarily slip up and say things that you like maybe don't mean or come out in a weird way because you like wrote it down first and you can go back and change it. You can't really do that when you're talking to somebody on the phone or in person. So that's also why I like to write um, things to people, and just writing is just really cool. It's really cool. So let's get into it. So basically, I will start here. It says, ego seeks attention, love, care, and validation elsewhere, like outside of itself. Ego is bitter, angry, and fueled by negativity. Ego is really just afraid. Ego wants to feel loved, safe, enough, supported. But if it experiences this, if it really receives this, ego dissolves into what you truly are. I feel like I'm reading a book to little kids. The game is over. The rat race is over. Then what? That's death to the ego. And who isn't afraid to die? Many are. Ego can die, but you are still here. It holds on for dear life in fear of being forgotten, of being left behind, demolished, and non-existent. Ego puts up a constant battle despite the fact that it's tired. But really, it's okay to let go. We tell our loved ones this as they get ready to die physically in this world and pass on to whatever is next. We view it as death because the body no longer functions, the voice, the eyes, the breath are gone. But the body is still and empty. Yet, where is the spirit? Where is the energy that kept it going, kept it moving, and kept it alive? The costume is left behind, but where is the person that was in control of it? Someone once said, die before you die. Ego death. And knowing it doesn't make it easier. Sometimes it can feel like a blessing and a curse at the same time. It's positive or negative, black or white, good or bad, but where is the balance? How do you detach from either and accept it as it is? No longer picking a side, but content with either, knowing it's temporary. It's an experience that's not fully you. How do you have the awareness of it, but still struggle with it? Maybe because ego is seen and continues to run and hide with the hopes of still surviving. Maybe you live in the past, holding on to it tight in fear that it's all you will ever have and all you are. Maybe you cling to the future in hopes of it proving your past wrong, or in hopes of it being better. Or maybe you run from what's to come in fear it won't be enough, or it won't live up to the expectation in your head. Oh, but the present, the most terrifying to the ego, because it has nowhere to escape, nowhere to go, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, but now. It feels stuck here. It's not that ego has to accept the now, the present, but you, the one who is aware, has to accept the ego. Reverse the roles, per se. Maybe you were looking at it upside down. Turn it around and look at it again. No one said you have to have the answers, but maybe the answers will come to you when you stop looking. Maybe they don't come from outside, but from inside. Inside you, the universe. A little poetry. I literally was just writing pen and paper. There was so much more that I wrote before I got to that point, but I was like, I want to share this in the next episode. It takes courage because I wasn't going to share it because I was like, you know what? This is like my personal stuff. I don't really share that type of stuff, but I wrote pages and pages before that, but it ended with that. And I just felt like, okay, that's enough writing. And I was like, well, that's poetic justice. Okay. Anyways. Yeah. I started talking about the ego because I learned that day and in that moment when I was writing, I realized that a lot of the pain and suffering, the things that I was experiencing was coming from ego. And I lost sight of that. And like I've said in the past, it's not to make ego an enemy, because ego is not the enemy. And if you make your ego or the ego within yourself an enemy, then that is ego itself making itself an enemy. It's like an imposter, and it continues, and it's a constant cycle. But ego can be a great teacher when you recognize it and when you're aware of it. But I was just thinking, like, you can be aware of something, and it's like, my channel is all about transform perspective and self-awareness and growth and lifestyle and just embodying your true self and learning who you truly are. Especially when you don't really know. Like, every day we're learning so much about ourselves. We're learning so much about life, and our perspective of these things can evolve as we evolve. And that's what it's all about. And that's what I'm sharing. And yeah, it can be kind of confusing and all over the place, and ego itself can be a great teacher when you see it for what it is. But I think it definitely takes more than just being aware of it, because I feel like I've become aware of many different things that I didn't even expect, and that self-awareness is great. But sometimes the self-awareness can be a blessing and a curse. It can feel more like a curse than a blessing to be aware of something. I heard someone say when I was scrolling through TikTok, child, nothing wrong with that, but sometimes, you can get a little sucked into it. But anyways, I was scrolling and I saw someone say, like, with therapy, sometimes some people are overly self-aware or very self-aware, and so therapy doesn't really work for them because they already know what the issue is. They already know and see what's going on within themselves and in their life clearly, clear as day. So it's just like you need more than just self-awareness. Now, self-awareness, I feel like, is the key to your growth or evolution or embodying your true self or learning about God and the universe. And, it could be the key to a lot of healing and a lot of growth and a lot of just you being at peace and connected and loved. And yeah, but it takes more than just self-awareness. But they were going on to say that, like, a lot of people who are self-aware, that therapy doesn't really work for a lot of people because they already see it. They already know what it is. And I think there's steps after that. I feel like there's more to it. And so I like to share that self-awareness. Yes, you want to have self-awareness of yourself, of your life. Awareness is great, but that's just like the starting point. That's just like a new level, sometimes, I don't want to say lower, but sometimes we're in this place where we're not even aware of what we're doing or what we did or ourselves or the things around us. And then we get to a place where sometimes some people get to a place where they unlock this whole new world through perception, through awareness, through realizing so much, through revelation of so many things, inside or outside. You awaken or have an awakening to something beyond you or something different and new, and you become more aware. It seems very cool, but it can also be very painful, because with that awareness comes the death of the ego. And that's kind of what I ended up writing about, and I didn't even expect it. Ego being something that's within you, but it's not totally who you are. Ego can be your emotions, your thoughts, your beliefs, your idea of how things are supposed to go or how things are supposed to be. Ego can keep you very much in a box. It can help you or it can hurt you depending on where you are in life and within yourself and your awareness. But as I was writing, I realized that, like, yeah, you can be aware, but that doesn't, like, solve things sometimes. It can, and it can be helpful, but sometimes you have to go a step further than awareness. Like, once you're at awareness, once you see something for what it is, it's like, okay, well, what's next? What do you do now? Then you go into action and make things happen. Now that you have that awareness, I feel like you can't just stop at seeing it. Like, sometimes seeing it is just enough, especially when we're looking at our internal world, when we're looking at our emotions or feelings. If you want to process things, if you want to process some of your experiences, your thoughts, your emotions that you're feeling, sitting with yourself and allowing yourself to kind of just meditate, observe it, and see it is perfect, because that's usually all it needs, is to just be seen. But sometimes, you need to follow up with action. depending on the circumstances and where you are. I'm not saying I got, all the keys, but I've learned that awareness is helpful, but sometimes there is some other steps necessary. It's like seeing someone break into your car constantly. At first, in this example, let me clarify. Let's say someone is breaking into your car and you just come to your car every day and you don't know why this person keeps like stealing stuff out of your car and trying to break into your car. Like they're not able to like kind of get away, but they keep constantly trying to break in. And it's like, okay, well, one day you may see that person break in. At first you notice, oh my goodness, some things are out of place, but they didn't. Okay, maybe car is not the best example. Let's say house. Let's say somebody's breaking into your house and you don't know who the person is or whatever. You haven't seen them, but you notice some things are different. Some things are out of place. Some things are messy. Some things are broken. And you're like, oh my goodness, someone broke into my house. It's a horrible thing. I'm not joking about it. I'm just using that as an example. And then one day you actually see the burglar, or you actually see the person break into your house and they're stealing your stuff again because they keep coming back, but you've never been able to catch them. And this time you see them. You're aware of it now. You say, oh my goodness, that's the burglar. They're stealing my stuff. Okay, so what next? The awareness is, oh, you see it. Sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes, you just need to see it. Whether it's in yourself, with your emotions, your thoughts, your experiences, when you want to heal and process things, that's all it takes sometimes is for you to see it. A lot of times we don't know that, and we can try to, do things outside of ourselves or get other people to see us. And, there's this underlying thing when really you just need to see it yourself, right? Instead of trying to get somebody else to see you or do things to be seen, maybe you need to see what's inside of you. On one level, yes, that awareness is just enough. You sitting, you meditating, which is just being present and being aware and observing what's in the inside and the outside. You just being here for it and seeing it and letting it go is enough. But sometimes that awareness is not enough in some circumstances. Sometimes it's like, yes, you need awareness, self-awareness and awareness in your life, but then you got to take another step. And like that example, yes, at first you didn't even know anybody was stealing out of your house. And then you recognize someone was stealing out of your house and someone was taking your stuff and breaking in and causing chaos. And then you see the thing that's causing the chaos. You see the thing that's causing the disturbance. And then it's like, well, what next? That's like 4 different levels, You don't notice. You notice something's different. Then you see the thing that's causing the difference, causing the chaos. And then it's like, okay, what's that next step? What is the action that you take? And so I'm learning that too, because I've definitely pro-awareness. You just need awareness, aware. Yes, sometimes awareness is enough. And sometimes there's another level. There's another step to take. And sometimes that's action or whatever the case may be. It's different for everybody. Sometimes you do actually need to take action. In that example, you're going to call the cops, or you're going to tackle the burglar or try to catch the person or whoever is causing this disturbance. You're going to, confront it and see what it is. And so that's something you can do in your internal, your emotions, your thoughts, your experiences. Sometimes seeing it is enough, but sometimes you need to confront these things and you need to make changes in your life, even if it's a small step, to do things differently. And then the growth and change and everything, and you being this new embodied person of your true self or your highest self, is, it happens over time, and it, happens in your reality, but it starts within. And so basically, I realized that it takes a lot more than just awareness. Awareness is great. Self-awareness is great. It is a start, but sometimes there's some levels and things after it. So when writing and reading and sharing this, when looking at the ego, I noticed that sometimes you can be aware of something and it's still a struggle. It's still something that you deal with. It's still something that you come up. And I think for me personally, there was this idea that once you see it, that's it. That's enough. It's gone. But sometimes things return. Sometimes those things that you thought that you healed or you processed fully or you worked through, it may come up again. And I think that I definitely was, hitting this wall where it was like this constant make it go away, make it go away, make it go away, or healing or trying to fix something so I don't have to deal with it, which was the ego. And it was another underlying thing that was getting in the way of many things within myself and in my external world. So that's just something that I kind of realized when writing this specifically, was that awareness can also, you know, I don't want to say it's not enough, but there can be more to it than just seeing it. Because, like I wrote here, I said, how do you have the awareness of it but still struggle with it? How do you see it but it's still a struggle? You see it. How is it still a problem? You know that it's there. And so a lot of people go through these experiences, including myself, where you become aware of so much. You realize so much. There's so many revelations and things, and it could seem so crazy and weird. And you see it for what it is, but yet it's still like there. And I guess I kind of had this idea in my head that if I see it, it'll go away and I never have to deal with it again. Or it'll never be an issue for me or problem solved. But that's not necessarily like the case. And so I'm learning more and more that awareness can be a blessing and a curse. It depends on your perspective. It depends on how you view it. And I think a beautiful thing is getting to a place of balance where you can just accept it for what it is, regardless of if it's positive or negative, black or white, good or bad, dark or light. You can detach from either thing, if that makes sense. You can accept it for what it is, despite it being one of the two. You're not choosing between preference of either or. It's just is what it is. You accept it as it is. Knowing that it's a temporary thing. It's something that you are experiencing, but it's not all that you are. It's something that you are experiencing, you are witnessing, you are aware of, because you are the awareness experiencing this inner world, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the past, the future, thought forms. And you're also experiencing the external world, the things you can feel, touch, smell, taste, but it's not all that you are. I am going to stop right there. That is all I have for this episode. Part 2 will be up pretty soon. This was a very long episode, so I kind of want to split it in two and just go from there. But it will be available very soon, hopefully sooner than a week. So we shall see. Definitely check out part 2. I hope you enjoyed part 1. Don't forget to check out that free 15-minute guided meditation for deep relaxation. It is in the description below on YouTube and on Spotify. If you want to watch the video and the entire podcast on YouTube, feel free. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. And then if you just want to listen, if you're in your car working out, definitely follow on Spotify. And TikTok will have many other videos and some shorts and some updates from Transform Perspective. So follow there as well. Share with your loved ones and people who you think may benefit from this episode or can relate or resonate. And let me know what you think in the comments about this topic. Stay tuned for part 2. And yeah, don't forget to have a transformed perspective. Remember, it is not about perfection, but committing to expansion. Adios.